My wife left me for my brother. Years later, they came back, begging for help. My wife left me for my brother on a Tuesday. That sounds like the kind of sentence people say in a dramatic movie trailer, something too ugly and unbelievable to happen in an ordinary life. But for me, it happened on a regular Tuesday afternoon, in the little yellow house I had bought with 7 years of overtime, missed birthdays, and cheap dinners so we could save for a future. I came home early that day because my supervisor sent everyone home after a power outage at the warehouse. I remember being almost happy as I pulled into the driveway. I had stopped by the grocery store and picked up Claire's favorite flowers, white tulips, because she had been distant for weeks, and I thought maybe marriage just needed small kindnesses when it started to feel cold. I opened the front door quietly. The house was too still, no music, no television. No sound of Claire moving around the kitchen, humming like she usually did when she cooked. Then I heard my brother's voice from the hallway. Ryan. My older brother. The golden son. The charming one. The one my parents always introduced first, even when I was standing right beside him. At first, I thought he had stopped by to help with something. Ryan did that sometimes. He would walk into our lives like he belonged there, borrow tools, drink my coffee, give opinions nobody asked for, and then leave with everyone smiling at him. But then I heard Claire laugh. Not a polite laugh. Not a friendly laugh. It was soft, intimate, and familiar in a way that made my stomach tighten before my brain understood why. I walked down the hallway, tulips in one hand, grocery bag in the other. The bedroom door was half open. I saw enough. I did not scream right away. I did not throw the flowers. I did not punch a hole in the wall like I always imagined betrayed husbands did when their lives shattered. I just stood there. Ryan turned first. His face went pale for about 3 seconds. Then, almost unbelievably, he straightened his shoulders as if he had been caught borrowing a jacket, not destroying his brother's marriage. Claire pulled the sheet up to her chest. She looked shocked, then embarrassed, and finally annoyed. Annoyed. That was the first thing that truly broke me. Not the betrayal. Not my brother. Not the bed we had picked out together. It was the look on my wife's face that said I had inconvenienced her by finding out. Mark, she said, like my name was a problem she had to solve. Ryan stepped forward. Listen, before you do something stupid. I dropped the grocery bag. A jar of pasta sauce hit the floor and cracked open, red spilling across the hardwood like something violent had already happened. I looked at my brother. How long? Ryan glanced at Claire. That tiny glance told me it had not been once. Claire closed her eyes. Mark, please. How long? I asked again. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. About 8 months. 8 months. 8 months of family dinners. 8 months of Ryan slapping me on the back and calling me little brother. 8 months of Claire kissing me goodnight with the same mouth she used to lie. The room tilted. I reached for the doorframe because I suddenly could not trust my own legs. Claire started crying then, but even her tears felt rehearsed. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she said. I almost laughed. How was it supposed to happen? Was I supposed to find out after they had already packed my life into boxes? Was I supposed to smile and give my blessing because it was more convenient for everyone? Ryan took another step toward me. I love her, he said. 3 words. That was all it took for whatever remained inside me to collapse. I looked at my wife. Do you love him? She did not answer quickly enough. And silence can be crueler than any confession. Finally, Claire whispered. Yes. I nodded. Not because I understood. Not because I accepted it. Because something inside me had gone quiet, in a way I had never experienced before. I picked up the tulips from the floor. A few petals had fallen off. I stared at them for a second, then placed them gently on the dresser. Ryan said, Mark, man, don't be dramatic. That was the moment I turned around and walked out. Not because I was strong, because if I stayed one more second, I was afraid of the man I might become. I drove for nearly 2 hours with no destination. My phone kept ringing. Claire. Ryan. My mother. My father. I did not answer. I ended up at a motel off the interstate, the kind with flickering lights and a front desk clerk who did not look up when I handed him my card. I sat on the edge of the bed until sunrise. No tears came at first. I think shock has a way of freezing grief in your chest before it melts and floods everything. By morning, I had 37 missed calls. Most of them were from my mother. When I finally listened to her voicemail, I expected concern. I expected horror. Maybe even rage on my behalf. Instead, her voice was sharp. Mark, you need to come home and talk this through like an adult. Your brother is devastated. Claire is devastated. This family does not need drama. I played it twice because I thought I had heard wrong. Your brother is devastated. Not me. Him. By noon, I drove to my parents' house. I do not know why. Maybe some part of me still believed that family meant safety. Maybe I needed someone to look me in the eyes and say, what they did to you was wrong. That was all I wanted. One sentence. But when I walked into my parents' living room, Claire was already there, sitting on the couch between my mother and Ryan. Ryan had his arm around her shoulders. My father stood by the fireplace with his arms crossed, wearing the same expression he used when I came home with a bad report card in 7th grade. "Sit down," Dad said. I stayed standing. Mom's eyes were red, but not for me. She reached for Claire's hand and squeezed it. "Mark," she said carefully, "we know you're hurt." I stared at her. Hurt. Like I had twisted an ankle. "But," she continued, "love is complicated." I looked at Ryan. He would not meet my eyes. Dad cleared his throat. "Your brother and Claire made mistakes in how this happened. Nobody is denying that." "How this happened?" I repeated. Mom's lips tightened. "Don't twist our words." I felt my hands curl into fists. "My wife slept with my brother for 8 months. What exactly am I twisting?" Claire started crying harder. Ryan snapped. "You don't have to be cruel." That made me laugh. One sharp sound escaped before I could stop it. "I'm cruel?" Dad pointed at me. Enough. There it was. The old pattern. Ryan could light the house on fire, and I would get blamed for coughing smoke. Mom sighed. "Claire and Ryan are in love. It's painful, yes, but sometimes people find their true partner later than expected." I felt like I had been slapped. "She is my wife," I said. Claire looked down. Mom whispered, "Not in her heart." The room went silent. I looked at each of them one by one. My mother, who had taught me to be loyal. My father, who had told me that a man protects his marriage. My brother, who had stolen what mattered most to me and still somehow sat there like a victim. My wife, who could not even look at me. Dad said, "You need to be reasonable. The marriage is over. Fighting this will only hurt everyone more." "Everyone," I said. "Or Ryan." Nobody answered. Mom stood and came toward me with her arms open, like she wanted to hug the problem out of existence. "Mark, please. Don't make us choose between our sons." I stepped back. "You already did." Her face crumpled then, but not enough to stop her. Dad's voice hardened. "If you walk out now, don't expect this family to chase you." I looked at him. For the first time in my life, I saw my father clearly. Not as the man whose approval I had chased since childhood. Just a man who had favorites and called it family values. I reached into my pocket and removed my house key. Then I placed it on the coffee table. Claire looked up quickly. "Mark." I removed my wedding ring next, and set it beside the key. "I hope it was worth it," I said. Then I walked out of my family's house, and did not go back for 6 years. The divorce was ugly in a quiet way. Claire did not want to fight at first. She wanted me to be mature. She wanted us to handle things with grace. That was her favorite phrase during those months. Grace meant I should not tell people why we were divorcing. Grace meant I should let her keep the house because she had emotional attachment to it. Grace meant I should not be angry when Ryan moved in 3 weeks after I left. Grace, apparently, meant everyone got to heal, except me. I hired a lawyer named Patricia Wells, a woman in her late 50s with silver hair and the emotional warmth of a courtroom bench. She listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, she removed her glasses and said, "Do not communicate with your wife without me present." That was the first good advice anyone had given me. Claire cried in mediation. Ryan waited in the parking lot during every session, leaning against his truck like some romantic hero supporting the woman he had rescued from a boring marriage. Except I had not been boring when I worked double shifts to pay off her student loans. I had not been boring when I stayed up all night with her after her first miscarriage, holding her while she shook with grief. I had not been boring when I rebuilt the back deck because she wanted summer dinners outside. But betrayal rewrites history. Suddenly, I was distant. I was too focused on work. I did not understand her. Ryan did. That was the story they told. And my family repeated it. My mother sent me long messages about forgiveness. My father sent one message that simply said, "You're embarrassing us." Ryan sent nothing. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. Because despite everything, he was still my brother. And part of me wanted him to apologize, not because it would fix anything, but because it would prove the brother I once knew had existed at all. He never did. When the divorce finalized, Claire got half the equity in the house. I sold it because I could not bear the thought of them sleeping in rooms built from my sacrifices. After taxes, legal fees, and debts, I had just enough to rent a small apartment above a laundromat on the east side of town. The walls smelled like detergent and old cigarettes. The pipes knocked at night. The heater worked only when it felt generous. And for the first time in 12 years, I was completely alone. Loneliness is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is eating cereal for dinner over the sink because sitting at a table feels too formal for one person. Sometimes it is waking up at 2:13 a.m. because you dreamed your wife was beside you, then reaching across cold sheets. Sometimes it is seeing a blue sedan like hers in traffic and losing your breath. I did not become successful overnight. I wish I could tell you I walked away, started a company, and became rich by Christmas. Real life does not usually move like that. For the first year, I barely survived. I went to work. I came home. I slept. I ignored holidays. I lost 15 pounds because food tasted like cardboard. My younger cousin, Natalie, was the only person in the family who reached out without asking me to forgive anyone. She showed up one Saturday with 2 coffees and a box of donuts. "I'm not here to lecture you," she said. "I'm here because you look like a haunted scarecrow." I almost closed the door in her face. Instead, I let her in. Natalie sat on my cheap couch, looked around my sad apartment, and said, "Okay, this is depressing, but workable." That was Natalie. She had the ability to insult you and comfort you in the same sentence. She came every Saturday after that. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes she cleaned while I pretended not to need help. Sometimes she forced me outside for walks. One day, about 8 months after the divorce, she said, "You know what your problem is?" I stared at her. "Only one? You're living like your life ended." It didn't. They just stopped being in it. I wanted to argue, but I could not. That sentence stayed with me. They just stopped being in it. Not my life ended. Not my future disappeared. They stopped being in it. So slowly, painfully, I started rebuilding. I took evening classes in project management. My warehouse job had taught me more about logistics than I realized, and one of my instructors encouraged me to apply for a supervisor role at a regional distribution company. I almost did not go to the interview because my only suit was from my wedding. Natalie made me buy a new one. "Do not wear betrayal fabric to a job interview," she said. I got the job. The pay was better. The hours were brutal. But brutal hours were easier than quiet evenings. I became good at solving problems because my own life had been one giant unsolved problem. I learned systems, costs, inventory, contracts. I learned how companies wasted money by pretending small problems were not serious until they became disasters. 2 years later, I left and started consulting for small manufacturers. 3 years after that, I had my own firm. It was not glamorous. No private jets. No mansion on a hill. But I had employees, clients, a reputation. People trusted me to walk into chaos and find the weak spot, maybe because I had lived through one. By year 6, I owned a townhouse in a quiet neighborhood, drove a decent truck, and had a dog named Murphy who believed every Amazon package was a personal threat. I dated a little, but never seriously. It was not that I still loved Claire. That love had died somewhere between the motel room and the courthouse. But trust grows back slowly, like skin over a burn. Then one October afternoon, Ryan called. I knew his number by heart even though I had deleted it years before. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then it rang again. And again. A voicemail appeared. I did not listen to it for 2 hours. When I finally did, Ryan's voice filled my kitchen. "Mark, it's Ryan. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. But I need to talk to you. It's important. Please call me back." No apology. Not even then. Just need. I deleted it. The next day, my mother called. I had not heard her voice in 6 years except through old family videos I should have thrown away but never did. This time I answered, "Hello?" There was a pause. Then she started crying. "Mark." I closed my eyes. I had imagined this moment many times. In my imagination, I was calm and powerful. I said something devastating and hung up while dramatic music played. But reality was quieter. My hand trembled around the phone. "What do you want, Mom?" She cried harder. "I miss my son." The words hit something tender, but not enough. "You had 6 years to say that." "I know," she whispered. "I know we made mistakes." Mistakes. That word again. 12. The soft blanket people throw over ugly things so they do not have to look directly at them. "What do you want?" I repeated. She took a shaky breath. "It's Ryan." Of course it was. I looked out the kitchen window at Murphy digging a hole beside the fence like he had discovered buried treasure. "What about him?" "He and Claire are in trouble." I waited. "They lost the business." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the universe has a strange sense of timing. "What business?" "Ryan opened a contracting company 3 years ago. Claire helped with the books. There were loans. And then a lawsuit. And then," she stopped. "And now they need money." "No," Mom said quickly. Too quickly. "Not just money." I leaned against the counter. "What else?" Her voice broke. "Their son is sick." That sentence changed the temperature of the room. I knew Ryan and Claire had a child. Natalie had told me by accident years earlier, then looked like she wanted to swallow her own tongue. A boy, Noah. He would have been 5 by then. I did not ask questions about him. I did not want details. Not because I hated a child. Because every detail felt like a knife. The life Claire said she wanted with me had become real with Ryan. "What do you mean sick?" I asked. Mom sniffed. "He has a kidney condition. It got worse. They're dealing with doctors and bills and insurance problems." Ryan tried everything. Something in me hardened at that last sentence. Ryan tried everything. Did everything include calling the brother he betrayed after 6 years of silence? Why are you telling me this? I asked. Mom hesitated. Because you're doing well now. There it was. The truth. Naked and shameless. Not because I was family. Not because they were sorry. Because I was useful. I laughed once under my breath. Mom rushed on. Please don't be cruel, Noah is innocent. I know he is. Then help him. I gripped the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. You don't get to call me after 6 years and order me to clean up Ryan's life. He's your brother. No, I said. He was my brother. The silence that followed was heavy. Then Mom said something I will never forget. Mark, whatever happened between you adults, this child should not suffer because you're bitter. Bitter. 6 years, and somehow I was still the villain. I hung up. That night, I did not sleep. I told myself it was not my problem. I told myself Ryan and Claire had made their choices. I told myself I owed them nothing. All of that was true. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw a 5-year-old boy in a hospital bed paying for sins he had never committed. The next morning, I called Natalie. I need information, I said. She knew immediately. They contacted you. Yes. She cursed under her breath. I told Aunt Linda not to. What's wrong with the kid? Natalie sighed. It's bad. Not hopeless, but bad. Noah needs ongoing treatment. Ryan's insurance lapsed when the company went under. Claire's working part-time, but most of their money is gone. Why did the company go under? Ryan got cocky, took advances, used money from one project to cover another. Then a client sued. There are rumors Claire moved money around trying to keep things afloat. I stared at the floor. Moved money around. That sounded exactly like Claire. Not evil in the cartoon sense. Just convinced she could bend reality if her feelings were strong enough. Are they homeless? I asked. Not yet. But close. They're living with your parents. I closed my eyes. The golden son had returned home carrying the woman he stole and the child they made, and my parents had opened the door. No surprise there. Natalie was quiet for a moment. Mark, you don't have to help them. I know. But if you help Noah, do it in a way they can't twist into access to you. That was why Natalie was the only family I still trusted. She understood the difference between compassion and surrender. 3 days later, Ryan showed up at my office. I had not seen him in 6 years. He looked older. Not just physically, though there was gray in his beard and deep lines around his eyes. He looked smaller somehow, like the confidence had leaked out of him one bad decision at a time. My assistant, Janet, knocked on my door. There's a man here named Ryan. He says he's your brother. I looked at the spreadsheet on my monitor and felt the past crawl into the room. Tell him I'm unavailable. Janet nodded. 5 minutes later, raised voices came from the lobby. Then Ryan pushed past Janet and stepped into my office. I just need 5 minutes, he said. I stood slowly. Get out. His jaw tightened. Mark, please. Janet appeared behind him, holding the phone. Should I call security? Ryan looked humiliated. Good, a bitter part of me thought. Then I hated myself for thinking it. I told Janet, give us 5 minutes. Door open. She nodded and stayed visible from the hallway. Ryan looked around my office. The framed licenses, the glass wall, the city view. His eyes lingered on my name printed on the door. You did well, he said. I said nothing. He swallowed. I'm glad. That made me smile, but not kindly. Are you? He flinched. Mark, I know you hate me. Hate requires energy. He looked down. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, Noah's sick. I heard. We need help. There it is. His face reddened. This isn't about me. It's about my son. I leaned against my desk. Funny how people discover innocence after they run out of options. Ryan stepped closer. Say whatever you want about me. I deserve it. I waited. He forced the words out like they physically hurt. I was wrong. 6 years. 6 years for 3 words. But apologies that arrive after consequences feel less like remorse and more like strategy. Wrong about what? I asked. Ryan looked confused. What? What were you wrong about? He dragged a hand over his face. Everything. Be specific. His eyes flashed with irritation. And there he was. My brother. The man who hated being made uncomfortable. I slept with your wife, he said. You had an affair with my wife for 8 months. Yes. You moved into my house. His mouth tightened. Yes. You sat in our parents' living room, while they told me to accept it. Yes. You let them paint me as unstable and bitter for refusing to bless your betrayal. Ryan's eyes watered. Yes. And then you spent 6 years pretending I didn't exist. He looked away. Yes. The room felt airless. Finally. He whispered. I'm sorry. I thought hearing those words would feel like relief. It did not. It felt like finding an old receipt in a jacket pocket. Proof of something already paid for. I walked to the door and opened it wider. I'll help Noah, I said. Ryan's head snapped up. But not through you. Hope and panic crossed his face. What does that mean? It means I'll speak directly with the hospital billing department or a patient advocate. I'll pay verified medical costs into the proper channels. Not $1 goes to you or Claire. He nodded quickly. Okay, yes. That's fine. And this does not make us family again. His expression cracked. Mark. No. You do not get access to my life because your life fell apart. You do not get dinners, holidays, or emotional redemption. I will not be used as proof that what you did was forgiven. Ryan stared at me. For once, he had no charming answer. I continued, send the hospital contact information to my office email. If you show up here again uninvited, security will remove you. He nodded slowly. At the door, he stopped. Claire wants to see you. My stomach turned. I laughed quietly. I'm sure she does. She feels terrible. No, Ryan. She feels desperate. There's a difference. He left without another word. I thought that would be the hardest part. I was wrong. Claire came 2 days later. Not to my office, to my house. I saw her through the doorbell camera, standing on my porch in a beige coat, her hair shorter than I remembered. For a second, my brain placed her in the wrong time. She looked like the woman I had once loved, but faded around the edges. I did not open the door. I spoke through the camera. Leave. She looked up, startled. Mark, please. I just want to talk. There's nothing to discuss. I know you hate me. People love saying that when they want you to argue. I did not. She wrapped her arms around herself. I heard you're helping Noah. I'm helping a child. He's a wonderful boy. I'm sure he is. My voice sounded colder than I felt. Claire's eyes filled with tears. He asks about you sometimes. That made me freeze. What? She looked ashamed. He saw an old photo at Linda's house. You and Ryan, when you were younger. He asked who you were. And what did you say? Claire looked down. I said you were his uncle. The word hit harder than expected. Uncle. A title from a family that had erased me until they needed me. Claire stepped closer to the door. Mark, I know I don't deserve anything from you. No, you don't. She flinched. But Noah does, she said. And I'm helping him. I need more than that. There it was again. Need. Always need. What do you want, Claire? She wiped her face. We're losing everything. Ryan is drowning. Your parents are using their retirement money. The medical bills are only part of it. We need a place to stay. We need time to recover. I stared at her through the screen, amazed. You came here to ask if you could live with me? No, she said quickly. Not with you. Maybe one of your rental properties. Just temporarily. We would pay when we could. I closed my eyes. I owned 2 rental homes by then. Small investments. Nothing extravagant. Natalie had told me to diversify. And for once, I had listened. Of course Claire knew. My mother must have told her. Claire. I said. Do you remember our house? She blinked. What? The yellow house. The one I bought before we got married. The one I refinished room by room while you picked paint colors. Her mouth trembled. Yes. Do you remember asking to keep it in the divorce because you had emotional attachment? She said nothing. Do you remember Ryan moving into it before the paperwork was finished? Tears slid down her cheeks. Mark, I was selfish. No, selfish is taking the last slice of cake. What you were was cruel. She covered her mouth. I know, she whispered. I almost opened the door. Not because I wanted her back. Because old instincts are dangerous. I had spent years protecting her comfort. Some habits survive long after love dies. But then Murphy barked from behind me, and the sound snapped me back into my own house, my own life, my own peace. No, I said. Claire looked up. I'll pay verified medical bills for Noah. I'll even fund a patient advocate to help you navigate insurance and assistance programs, but I will not house you. I will not rescue Ryan's business. I will not pay your debts. I will not become the safety net you cut apart when you left. She cried silently. Then she said, Did you ever love me at all? I stared at the screen. That question was so unfair it almost impressed me. I loved you enough to build a life with you, I said. You loved me enough to leave me for my brother. She stepped back like I had struck her. Goodbye, Claire. I ended the call and muted the doorbell. She stayed on the porch for 12 minutes, then she left. The next few months were complicated. I kept my word. Through my attorney, I contacted the hospital and arranged payment for Noah's outstanding medical bills. I hired an independent patient advocate to help Claire apply for aid, negotiate charges, and restore coverage options. I did not communicate with Ryan or Claire directly. Every request went through Patricia Wells, who was still terrifying and still excellent at her job. My parents tried to call. I blocked them. Ryan sent a letter. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it while sitting at my kitchen table with Murphy's head on my foot. The letter was 4 pages long. For once, Ryan did not defend himself. He wrote about how it started, how Claire had come to him crying about the marriage, how he had enjoyed feeling needed, how he had told himself I did not appreciate her, How the lies became easier once they crossed the first line. He wrote that mom and dad knew before I did. I stopped reading. Then I read that sentence again. Mom and dad knew before I did. According to Ryan, my mother had suspected for months. My father found out 2 weeks before I walked in on them. They confronted Ryan, but not to stop him. To manage it. To avoid scandal. To make sure. The transition, as Dad called it, happened quietly. The transition. My marriage had been treated like a business handoff. I sat at the table for a long time, the letter shaking in my hands. I thought I was done being hurt by them. I was wrong. There are betrayals you survive in the moment, and then there are betrayals that keep unfolding years later, hidden layers of rot beneath a floor you thought you had already torn out. The next Sunday, Natalie came over. I handed her the letter. She read it once, then sat back and whispered, "Oh, Mark." That was all she said, and somehow that was enough. I did not cry when Claire left. I did not cry in court. I did not cry when I sold the house. But I cried that day, sitting at my kitchen table, because I finally understood that my family had not simply chosen Ryan after the betrayal. They had helped prepare the ground before I even knew I was standing on it. 2 weeks later, my father showed up. Unlike Claire, he did not ring the bell and plead. He knocked like he still owned the right to be answered. I opened the door because I wanted to look at him. He had aged badly. His shoulders were narrower. His hair was almost fully white. For a moment, I saw the man who taught me to ride a bike. Then I saw the man who told me I was embarrassing the family because I refused to bless my own humiliation. "Mark," he said. "Dad." He looked past me into the house. "Nice place. Why are you here?" His jaw moved slightly. "I came to talk." "About Ryan?" "About all of it." I almost laughed. 6 years late, but go ahead. He looked irritated, then tired. "Your mother is sick over this. She should see a doctor." His eyes hardened. "Don't be disrespectful." And just like that, I was 15 again. But I was not 15. I was 41 years old, standing in a house paid for by my own work, answering to no one. "You do not get to come to my porch and lecture me about respect." Dad looked away. I said, "I read Ryan's letter." His face changed. There was the truth, not surprise, fear. "You knew," I said. He exhaled slowly. "It was complicated." "No, it was cowardly." His mouth tightened. "We were trying to hold the family together. You held Ryan together. You let me fall." Dad finally looked at me. For the first time, I saw shame in his eyes. Real shame. But shame is not the same as accountability. He said, "We thought you'd recover." I stared at him. That sentence was so honest and so cruel that I had no response at first. They thought I would recover. They had calculated my pain as survivable. Ryan's comfort was urgent. Claire's reputation mattered. The family image mattered. My destruction was acceptable, because I was strong enough to survive it. I said, "You were right." Dad blinked. "I did recover." His face softened with hope. Then I finished. "But not as your son." He looked like I had hit him. "Mark. No. I have spent 6 years grieving people who were still alive. Do you know what that does to a person? Do you know what it feels like to realize your family did not lose you by accident, but by choice?" His eyes watered. "I'm sorry," he said. It was the first time my father had ever apologized to me. And maybe in another life, it would have mattered more. But some doors do not stay open forever. "I accept that you're sorry," I said. He stepped forward. I stepped back. "But I'm not coming back." His face collapsed. "Ever?" I looked at him for a long time. I don't know what ever means. But not now. Not because Ryan needs help. Not because mom feels guilty. Not because the family name finally has consequences. Dad nodded slowly. He turned to leave, then stopped. "Noah asks about you," he said. "So I've heard. He's a good boy." "I believe that." Dad swallowed. "Maybe someday you could meet him." I did not answer. Because the truth was, I did not know. A child was innocent. But innocence did not erase the adults surrounding him. After he left, I sat on the porch until sunset. A week later, Patricia called. "Noah's treatment plan is stabilized," she said. "Your payments cleared the outstanding balance. And the advocate found a state program that should cover much of the ongoing care." I closed my eyes. "Good. There's another matter." Of course there was. Ryan and Claire filed for bankruptcy. They listed you as a potential creditor because of medical payments. I laughed. "A creditor? They're trying to classify your assistance as a loan to reorganize some obligations. It's messy, but not dangerous. I'll handle it." I stared at my office wall. Even my help had become paperwork in their disaster. "Patricia?" "Yes?" "Make sure the medical payments are legally documented as gifts, for Noah's benefit only. No repayment, no leverage." "Already done." "And send a letter. No further financial assistance beyond medical expenses unless I approve in writing." "Good boundary." I smiled faintly. I learned from the best. After that, things quieted down. For almost 3 months, I heard nothing. Then, on Christmas Eve, An envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a drawing, a child's drawing. 3 stick figures stood beside what looked like a hospital bed. One small figure lay under a blue blanket. Above them, in uneven handwriting, were the words, "Thank you, Uncle Mark." I sat down slowly. There was also a note from Claire. Not long. Just a few lines. Noah wanted to send this. We told him you helped with the hospital. I know we don't deserve your kindness, but he does. Thank you for giving him a chance. I am sorry. Then I put the drawing on my refrigerator. Not the note. Just the drawing. Natalie noticed it when she came over for Christmas dinner. She smiled softly but did not say anything. That was her gift to me. The following spring, I met Noah. Not because Ryan asked. Not because Claire begged. Because Noah wrote another letter. This one had help with spelling, but the words were clearly his. Dear Uncle Mark. Grandma says you are my dad's brother. Mom says you helped me when I was sick. I like dinosaurs and pancakes. Thank you. That was it. Dinosaurs and pancakes. No manipulation. No guilt. No family politics. Just a little boy trying to understand the shape of his world. I agreed to meet him at a public park with Natalie present. Ryan and Claire could bring him, but they were not to stay close. Patricia said it was emotionally unwise. Natalie said, probably. But sometimes emotionally unwise is still human. So I went. Noah was smaller than I expected. Thin from illness, with Ryan's dark hair and Claire's eyes. He ran toward me holding a plastic dinosaur. Are you Uncle Mark? He asked. My throat tightened. Yeah, I said. I am. He held up the dinosaur. This is a triceratops. It has 3 horns. I see that. It could beat a T-Rex if it had to. That seems useful. He nodded seriously. Very. Children have no idea when they are saving you. We sat at a picnic table and talked about dinosaurs, pancakes, and Murphy, who Noah immediately declared a brave dog, after hearing about his war against delivery boxes. Ryan and Claire watched from a distance. I felt their eyes on me. But I did not look at them. For 1 hour, I was not the betrayed husband. I was not the abandoned son. I was not the brother who disappeared. I was Uncle Mark, discussing whether syrup counted as a food group. When the visit ended, Noah hugged me. It was sudden and fierce. Thank you for helping me, he said. I put a hand gently on his back. You're welcome, buddy. As he ran back to Claire, I finally looked at her. She was crying. Ryan stood beside her, looking at the ground. For the first time, I did not feel rage. I did not feel love either. I felt distance, a clean, quiet distance. And I realized that healing is not always forgiveness. Sometimes healing is when the people who broke you can stand 10 feet away and no longer control your breathing. Over the next year, I saw Noah once a month. Never at my house, always in public, always with boundaries. Sometimes Ryan tried to talk to me. I kept it brief. One day, while Noah played on the swings, Ryan sat beside me on a bench. I lost everything, he said. I watched Noah kick his legs toward the sky. No, I said. You lost what you built on someone else's pain. Ryan absorbed that. Then he nodded. You're right. It was the first time he did not argue. He said, Claire and I separated. I turned to him despite myself. He gave a humorless laugh. Turns out a relationship born from betrayal doesn't come with much trust. I said nothing. He continued, we spent years wondering if the other person would do it again. Every late text. Every closed door. Every argument. We poisoned ourselves. I watched Noah jump off the swing and stumble, then pop back up like children do. I'm not happy about that, I said. Ryan looked at me. I thought I would be, I admitted. For a long time, I wanted karma to destroy you. And now? Now I just want peace. Ryan's eyes filled. I wish I could undo it. I nodded. I know. Do you think someday we could? No. I did not say it harshly. That made it worse for him. No, I repeated. I can be civil because of Noah. I can stand near you without wanting to break something. But you and I are not brothers in the way we were. That version of us died in my hallway. Ryan looked down. After a while, he whispered, I miss you. I looked at him then. The strange thing was, I believed him. And even stranger, I missed him too. Not the man beside me. The boy who built forts with me in the backyard. The teenager who taught me how to throw a curveball. The brother who once drove 3 hours in a snowstorm because my car battery died. I miss someone who no longer existed. I miss who you were, I said. Ryan closed his eyes. We sat there in silence while Noah laughed in the distance. 2 years after they came begging for help, my mother died. Cancer. Fast, brutal, unfair. Natalie called me first. I went to the hospital. Not for my father. Not for Ryan. Maybe not even for my mother. I went because some endings deserve witnesses. Mom was thin and small in the bed, her skin nearly translucent. When she saw me, she cried. My baby, she whispered. I sat beside her. For a while, We did not talk about the past. She asked about my work. About Murphy. About whether I was eating enough. As if I were still 23 and living on instant noodles. Then, near the end of the visit, she said, "I failed you." I looked at her. She stared at the ceiling. I told myself I was protecting the family, but I protected the wrong things. My chest hurt. "I needed you," I said. Tears slipped into her hair. "I know. You made me feel like I was hard to love." She covered her mouth with a shaking hand. "No, Mark, no. But you did." She turned her face toward me. "You were never hard to love. You were easy to rely on." And I confused the two. That sentence broke something open in me. Because it was true. I had been the dependable one. The strong one. The one who would recover. The one who could be asked to understand, to forgive, to move aside. My family had mistaken my endurance for permission. Mom reached for my hand. I let her take it. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry." This time, the apology did something. It did not erase the past. But it entered a room in my heart that had been locked for years and turned on a small light. "I believe you," I said. She squeezed my hand weakly. That was the last real conversation we had. At her funeral, Ryan stood across the grave from me. Claire was not there. She and Ryan had finalized their divorce months earlier. My father looked hollow. After the service, he approached me. "I don't expect anything," he said. That was new. I waited. He handed me a small envelope. "Your mother wanted you to have this." Inside was a photo. Ryan and me as kids, sitting on the hood of Dad's old pickup, both of us covered in mud and grinning like criminals. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, it said, "Before I forgot what mattered." I stared at it for a long time. Dad said, "I'm sorry too." I nodded. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But acknowledgement. Sometimes that is the first stone in a bridge you may or may not ever cross. Years have passed since that Tuesday. I am not the man who walked into that bedroom holding white tulips. I am not the man who begged silently for his parents to choose him. I am not the man who sat alone above a laundromat wondering if betrayal had made him unworthy. Claire lives in another state now. She sends updates about Noah through a shared email account managed mostly for school and medical information. She has apologized more than once, and I think she means it. Ryan works for someone else now. No company. No big promises. No golden sunshine. He shows up for Noah, and from what I can see, he is trying to become a better man. My father and I speak occasionally. It is awkward, careful, but real in a way our old relationship never was. He no longer gives commands disguised as advice. I no longer chase approval he should have given freely. And Noah? Noah is 11 now. He still loves dinosaurs, though he pretends he has outgrown them. He plays soccer badly but enthusiastically. He calls me Uncle Mark without knowing how heavy that name once felt. Last summer, he asked me a question while we were fishing. "Did you and my dad used to be best friends?" I watched the water ripple around the line. "Yes," I said. "A long time ago." What happened? I could have lied. I could have told him. Adults drift apart. But children deserve truth in shapes they can carry. "Your dad hurt me very badly," I said. "And it took a long time for me to be okay." Noah was quiet. "Are you okay now?" I looked at him. At this boy who came from the worst pain of my life and somehow became part of my healing. "Yeah," I said. "I am." He nodded, then looked back at the water. "Good." That was all. No dramatic music. No perfect closure. No grand revenge. Just good. People think karma means watching everyone who hurt you suffer. I used to think that too. But now I think karma is simpler. It is Ryan living with the knowledge that he broke a brotherhood he can never fully repair. It is Claire understanding too late that love built on betrayal comes with cracks in the foundation. It is my parents realizing that the son they took for granted was the one they could not easily get back. And it is me, sitting beside a lake with a kid who needed help, realizing I did not become cruel just because people were cruel to me. That is the part I am proud of. Not that I walked away. Not that I built a better life. Not that they came back begging and I had the power to say no. I am proud that when the moment came, I knew the difference between helping an innocent child and surrendering myself to the people who hurt me. My wife left me for my brother. Years later, they came back begging for help. And I gave help where it was deserved, but I never gave them permission to break me twice.